everyone! Happy Friday! You're listening to Ask a Badass HB, the episode of Heaving Bosoms where we spotlight our amazing listeners. I hope you're really stoked for Monday, because we have a big surprise. We thought we were going to have one more guest episode, but I'm feeling way better. So you're getting A Court of Wings and Ruin, Part 1, on Monday, May 4th. That's right. Aaron and I are finally giving you what you've been begging for in what will probably be a 3-part series. So buckle up. And now we've got Jen L.B. She's a unicorn of support, caring, and inclusion. She is a rain box of friendship, and we are all so lucky to have her on our side. Seriously, she's like a hot, smart Care Bear. Let's do this!
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jen. Listeners, I am here with Jen B. She is not going to be a stranger to you if you are a member of the geriatric friendship cult. Right, Jen?
I don't know. Maybe I'm not exactly like super high profile, but I'm definitely present.
You're there all the time. Yes. Well, not all the time.
A lot. More than I sometimes should be. But
yeah, well, aren't we all, really? Let's be honest. Jen has been around since the beginning of the geriatric friendship cult. We just talked about this the other day.
Right. And so I just want it noted for all the listeners that I was actually on the ground floor of something, because that does not ever happen for me.
Yeah.
So I was added to the cult 2 days after Melody was added to the cult.
Yes.
So I think that's pretty much in the first group, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. What a true hipster. You liked us before we were cool.
That's right.
Are we
and
cool?
I have to tell you, I also found something else that showed that I really was meant to be in the cult, because I do not wear lipstick. I just don't. I don't like lipstick. I almost never wear it. I do happen to own a few lipsticks that every once in a while I get a burst of enthusiasm and think I'm going to be a person who wears lipstick now, and I never do. But I found some in an old purse the other day, and I realized that I had the cult lipstick before it was the cult lipstick. I don't think I've ever actually worn it out of the house. We have
so much in common. Me too.
Nice.
Back in the day, before the cult, I went to a Kesha concert, and I wore some cult lipstick, and before it was the cult lipstick, or maybe Melody was wearing it, but we just hadn't announced it. It hadn't been chosen. And I believe my hashtag was, "This lipstick lasts 24 hours."
See, I wouldn't know, because I know I wore it exactly one time in my house, for a matter of an hour, and then I was annoyed that it wouldn't come off my face, and I think that was the only time I ever wore it, and I stuck it in this purse until I found it. So,
it's one of the, you can't do a soft commitment to it. You have to really, you can't just do a tester at the grocery store or whatever.
Right.
It's never going to work for you. So here we are today together. So Jen and I know each other. Wait, are we disclosing your location, Jen?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Jen and I are members of the Chicago HB group. It is vibrant and robust and full of great human beings.
Absolutely.
We did a meetup at Love Sweet Arrow, the romance only store in Tinley Park, and it was awesome. We met so many cool HBs.
I know. I was excited to see some new people that I'd never met before, so it was really good.
People that we have interacted only with on the internet, just like you and I before we were actual real in life in-person friends.
That's right.
That's how we worked, but now you're stuck with me in person and on the internet.
Yeah.
And as we know, you have been a longtime listener. So what was your kind of gateway to Heaving Bosoms?
Well, I remember I started listening. Smart Bitches had done, before they had even formally mentioned it, I think there was a news kind of post, or one of those cool things on the internet posts. And there was one very early post that mentioned it. I don't know what episode it was, but I think it was in the single digits, maybe even. And so I like heard about it and I started listening pretty much right away and haven't stopped since.
Woohoo. Do you remember what your first episode was, or did you start at the beginning?
I started at the beginning. I always do that with podcasts. I don't know that that's the best strategy. Sometimes
it's rough to listen to a podcast from the beginning. If you go back to mine and Blair's episodes, there's going to be some rough editing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I always go back and forth on whether I should stick with my strategy, but I usually do. I usually start at episode 1 of the podcast.
Are you a completist as far as like other things go too?
Sometimes, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm an obsessive completist, but I do get a satisfaction from being complete.
Will you DNF a book?
I don't do it a lot. So it does take a bit for me to DNF a book, but I will do it. But usually more than anything, I DNF out of boredom. Like if it's just, if I'm, I'll stick with it for a while and then eventually I put it down and I just never pick it up again. So I don't DNF a ton.
Yeah. I understand that. I DNF a lot.
Right.
A lot of things. I've been very clear on my stance. It doesn't take much.
It's a good strategy. I think there's so many books out there. I just,
which is so funny because I will give like a human being like 60 million chances, but what a book just like throws one aluminum can in the garbage. I'm like, it's over, okay? Or gets one science fact wrong and I'm out of there.
That's right.
So it doesn't really take much. And then romance has been a part of your life for a long time or no?
Yeah, well, I read romance, I would say when I was, like a preteen. My mom has always been a big romance reader, but I mean, we get along pretty well, but I wouldn't say we're, super close. And so she and I we've never really discussed romance. She's much more of like the kind of, a little bit, not so much clean, because I remember definitely picking up some of her books when I was a kid, and they were not clean.
Yeah.
But she is a bit more on the kind of less sex side of the romance, and she reads like, Susan Mallory and stuff like that. Small town kind of things, I think. And so she used to bring me to a bookstore. There used to be a bookstore in the Chicago area that was a used romance bookstore. And I don't remember actually. I guess I don't
is very
know.
Niche.
It was amazing. I can't even believe how it ever stayed in business. But I don't know for sure that it was 100% romance, but I know for sure it was almost all romance.
Yeah.
And we used to go and she would pick out like a huge bag of paperback books, and I used to pick a bunch up too. And at first I started mostly with those kind of Harlequin Regencies that didn't have any sex in them, and I was like 12. I thought that was totally fine for me. I did not want the sex in there. But quickly I kind of abandoned that idea. And then, I realized the library had Harlequins.
Yeah.
And that's really what started me on my romantic suspense love, because I started reading the Harlequin suspense titles and from the library, and I would get, a bag a week or whatever. Yeah. And I continued that through a lot of high school, but then I got to college and I just kind of stopped reading. And it was really only after college and after, many years of working and stuff, and I wasn't really reading that much at all. And then I had a baby and I had a really terrible birth, and it was, it was a lot of injuries and a whole long recovery and surgery and all kinds of stuff. And just like my body and I just did not get along, and I was just not very happy. And I remember being home a lot because I started working from home, and so I was like always home with just me and my baby. And it was I finally started picking up, I got a Kindle and I started picking up like some free books for the Kindle.
I'm very familiar with this idea.
Came across a few romance novels and I was like, I forgot how much I love these. And that was it. And then I kind of I really think like it made a big impact on me in terms of like feeling more connected to my body and, just like feeling like I had a life outside of my kid and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so ever since then, you know, I basically read almost nothing but romance at this point. So that was like 10 years ago. So
absolutely. But Jen is actually my first librarian, first librarian for sure that we're featuring on the podcast. And so I'm going to ask Jen later some library specific questions. And we're going to talk about why librarians are awesome. But I think everyone already knows that. But was the library like a big feature in your childhood, Jen?
yeah, it was pretty big. I mean, we were pretty close to the library. So, you know, I used to be able to walk there.
Yeah.
And I read a lot as a kid. Although, you know, I went to a small private religious grade school. So, you know, it wasn't, the reading choices that were given at school were somewhat limited. And so I actually missed out, I think, on a lot of the kind of typical YA books that people my age have read. Like, you know, I've never read any Judy Blume, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, we just, like, my, you know, obviously my school would not have provided those, and
they definitely weren't letting you read Summer Sisters. That's for dang sure.
So I read a lot of like older books too, like a lot. I remember the school library, which wasn't much of a library because it was a really small school, you know, had books from like the 60s and stuff, you know, or like the 50s.
Yeah.
Things like Caddy Woodlawn or something like that. You know, that was kind of the time period they were working with. So,
but like, I think I was a lot like that too, though, because I mean, I was reading, my vivid memories of books from my childhood were Nancy Drew.
Yes.
Original Nancy Drew books. And then Miss Sea of Chincoteague, which I have referenced before on this podcast. And then James Herriot books.
Yeah.
And I read those until the covers fell off. Well, and Laura Ingalls. So I was reading pretty much exclusively old books too.
Yeah.
I understand.
So, and I wasn't, I regret to say I was not a horse girl. I never really got into the horse thing. And I didn't really read many horse books. I think I read Black Beauty and that was about it. But, I wasn't a horse girl, but, you know, I loved Nancy. I loved mysteries. I actually, Nancy Drew and Encyclopedia Brown were probably my absolute favorites.
Yeah.
So I think I was like a genre fiction kid before that was really like thought of as a thing. So
besides like reading romance and things like that, do you have any other lady loves in your life right now?
I am glad you asked because I want to talk about lady loves and this concept of lady loves because I thought I was thinking about it because I think it really dovetails nicely with the library theme. Because, you know, I've always, you know, you and I kind of joked when we were talking about doing a podcast and I told you I'm not interesting and I don't have anything interesting about me.
Which FYI listeners, is false.
No,
okay.
I mean, I guess, and that's not a slam on myself, but there is an element of I've never been a person who had a lot of hobbies. I don't do a lot of deep dives into most things, you know, like some people do. So, but I think that's part of why I ended up going into librarianship also, because I like to know a little bit about a lot of things. So this concept of lady loves, I absolutely love it. I love this idea of people loving stuff and loving it unashamedly and loving it wholeheartedly. And that just brings me like so much joy. Yes. And like, I love to hear about the lady loves on the podcast. I love it when people in the cult post things about, maybe it's a book, you know, in particular, but anything. If they just tell us about some movie that they saw or that some, you know, thing that they did with their day that was really cool. And I like it just, so here's what it is. I think as part of it is that, and I think English majors can be particularly susceptible to this. We get a sort of quality judgments about a lot of things, like this is good and that is not good. And, you know, I spent a lot of time, I never would say it to people out loud, but in my head I would think, oh, that song is not good. And this one is good. Or, you know, that book is not a good book. And this book is a good book. And I think that's just I don't like that doesn't bring me as much joy as just being like, yeah, all right, I'm so glad you love that thing. I love that you love that book. And I have a lot of weird book opinions. I've said this before in the cult. I don't often like the things that are really popular, and that everybody else likes.
But you're never gonna flip and hate on it, which thank you for that. By the way, that's a big pet peeve of mine.
I think, and I want to say, it's not that I think like I am not at all against like criticism. I'm not at all against, a little bit of snarky hate every once in a while. I think that's also, there's a place for all of that as well. But I love to hear what people love, and I don't have to love it too. I don't need to love the book that everybody else loved. And like, that's good. That's fine. Yeah. But it brings me joy to hear people talk about those things.
Me too. That's basically what this podcast is, Jen. Yeah. I think that's why you and I get along so well, is because that's one of the things, like, I am a firm believer that we absolutely don't have to like the same things. Yeah. We don't even have to like, even if you and I like something, we don't have to like it the same amount. You can love it, and I can be just like, yeah, it's fine, it's good. Right. And I think that's one of the things I really love about you too, is that you're going to be accepting of who people are, no matter what it is. You know what I mean? As long as you're not like, right. Crazy
hurting
psychopath.
Somebody else. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and actually what you said there about that, like, accepting who you are, like, that's why it makes me so happy, because I love to see people owning what they love, and like feeling like they can say that and are cool with that. Yeah. And that, I love that. And it's like, I started listening recently to I know a lot of people in the cult are McElroy Brothers fans, and they have
is that my brother and
yes me? Okay. And so Griffin, one of the brothers, and his wife have a podcast called Wonderful, and I've recently started listening to it, and it's just all about things that are wonderful. And it's, again,
that's
there is
the kind
a place,
of positivity I need in this
yeah
world.
There is a place for a little bit of like hate on things too, but I think there's also a place. It's okay. You don't have to be, you don't have to like things ironically. You can just like it, Yeah. And like, I love this podcast. Sometimes I can, I don't want to listen to it all day or anything, but eventually you're like, okay, that's enough with the positivity. But like,
take it down a notch, okay?
It's fun to listen to an episode of just them talking about something that they think is really interesting, and that like is just. That concept is really just like pure and lovely. And I think the reason I think it ties into being a librarian is because to some extent, I see that as sort of my role as a librarian, is to connect people with those things that they love. It's not to tell them what they should love or anything. It's to connect them. Now, I work in a college library, so I do less of the kind of pleasure connection, like pleasure reading or pleasure watching. For students are doing more kind of research, but I look at even just research that they have to do for a class as a little bit of that, like that they are finding that topic that is touching their heart, hopefully, and that they want to talk about and have something to say about, and finding their path to get through that class, and like that. I like that. I like doing that, and I like being a part of that process.
It's like being an enabler in the very best way. Yeah. In the very best, most like healthy way. You know what I mean? Do you have a first or a favorite library memory from your childhood, or it can be your adult life, but a favorite library memory?
Not too much. I mean, one thing I think I went to the library a lot, but I don't remember it being particularly memorable. Like, I remember the books, but not so much. We didn't spend tons of time at the library. But I do remember it being a super big deal when they got computers, and we used to go play Oregon Trail.
Oh, yeah.
at the library, and that was very cool. I remember very much enjoying Oregon Trail at the library.
Yeah. Heck yeah. We used to get like computer lab time with Oregon Trail, and you didn't always get to play Oregon Trail because most of the time it was like number munchers or something like that. But if you like did all your speed typing exercises or whatever it is, then you got to play Oregon Trail, and that was always like the best day.
Yeah,
ever. Loved it. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing your library knowledge and experience with me. I love it. This was awesome. Are you ready for a actual Ask a Badass lightning round?
We'll see. I tried to prep, but I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to only use questions off of the list?
No, you can ask me whatever.
Whatever. Okay. I think I kind of know this, but what is your favorite romance genre?
I have to say, I think paranormal has now edged out suspense. I used to really, that was my favorite, was romantic suspense. I think paranormal is now a little ahead. Just because I think some of the suspense stuff is, there's a lot of stuff that's similar in that genre. So,
do you have a favorite romance monster?
Oh, I think probably shifters of all kinds. I don't know. I really like werewolves. I really like bears. Becky, I like bears. So I think those, but shifters probably of all kinds. But then, I really like any kind of magic user, a witch, a warlock, a wizard, something like that.
What about a necromancer?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Depends. Is he a sexy necromancer, I guess? I don't know.
It's like, here's what it is, though. I have a really hard time with too dark. I don't love things that are too dark. And I think that's actually one of my issues with vampires, which I don't mind vampires. I've gotten used to them, I guess. But, like,
Fine.
I'm never going to seek them out. I'm never going to go intentionally look for vampires because I find those stories tend to be really, really dark, and I'm just like, but you're dead, like. So
it's just a puff of dust, Jen.
Exactly.
Okay?
That's right. I like that whole conversation we had in the cult. For those of you who are newer, we had a big conversation about what happens when a vampire comes, and
it's just
I don't
a puff
like
of dust.
Any of the solutions.
I think I like my favorite is just a flag that unfurls that just says "come."
Yeah.
Or maybe it should say something like "kapow" or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I like it either way. It makes me giggle. Do you have a favorite carb?
Bread. Pretty much real bread of
I know you
sort.
Don't get to eat it as often as you.
Yeah, we have a gluten-free household, and so anytime I can have actual, genuine wheat bread, I am pretty happy.
Oh, wheat bread is your preferred bread?
Well, made with wheat of some sort, but yeah,
okay.
like I mean.
Not like brown wheat. Just
I am down with that. I love a good hearty kind of crunchy bread. That's great. I love a soft, smooth bread. Any bread. Just give me some bread. Yeah,
I like bread of all kinds. I understand. Do you have a go-to author?
Probably my top one is Shelley Lawrenson. Her voice really works for me. I love funny books, and so her voice, it really ticks all my boxes. It's funny. It's strong women in there.
Is she the one with the tits out fighting from back in the day? Okay.
I love tits out fighting. I love it. I love it. That is like my genre is basically like summed up as tits out fighting. That's my favorite.
Jen is tits out for tits out fighting.
That's right. So everything she writes is Shelley Lawrenson and also G.A. Aiken. And her voice, I know it does not work for everybody, but it does for me. So
I'm pretty sure it doesn't work for me. I don't know that for sure. But
it's very specific. And if
I've tried G.A. Aiken before.
If you read a paragraph of hers, even I would say like that probably is what you need to know. Like if you don't like, if you're like, this is really annoying, or why are they swearing so much, or
I don't
or why did they just stab that guy? Like it's probably not for you.
Just you know what? Don't ask questions, okay? Do you have, what would your bing boom bong be?
I mean, I guess something in libraries, maybe. I don't, because again, like I said, I know a little about a lot, but not a lot about a lot of things. So I would say it probably would have to be something in libraries.
Absolutely. I don't even know if I know this answer. Are you an animal person? Are you a dog or cat person?
Not a lot.
I don't associate you with like an animal.
We never had any pets growing up. And so I've just never been much for animals. I mean, I'm like, I'm big on like take care of animals and let's support them, and,
okay?
Stuff like that. Like, well, I think animals are great, but I don't see a need for one in my life. Now, my kids have a different opinion on this matter, so we'll see how long that lasts. But
they seem like perfect goldfish candidates.
Yeah.
I bet that's what they're looking for.
Well, and my dad had pretty bad asthma, and my mom had allergies to animals and stuff, so we just never had them around, and none of our family members had them around. So
do you want to hear a funny story? So my mom is allergic to cats, but we have always had cats. She just has to have a cat, so she just deals with it.
Yeah. I had a friend whose mom was severely allergic.
Yeah.
And she's multiple times got sent to the hospital because of her allergies to her cat, but she kept getting more cats.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably some sort of self-harm situation, but you know what? It's fine. Are you an Aaron or a Melody?
I am. I would say Aaron for sure. I am. I wish I was more Melody-like, but I think I'm probably a lot of Aaron.
I could see that.
Not that I don't want to be like Aaron too. I like them both. I would like to be a big mix.
All
but
right,
I'm not.
Jen. Let's be honest here. Let's just be ourselves.
No,
you can be the Aaron to my Melody.
Well, I see. What I wish I had just melodies. I wish I had a little more octopus in me. Is I'm just not good at that. I don't mind being octopus, but I'm just not good at the tentacles.
I'm going to say that sentence again. I don't mind being octopus. I just can't do the tentacles that much.
That's right.
All right, cool. All right, we found our tagline for this episode. Do you have I know you like bread, but do you have a favorite snack? Like if you're going to just grab a snack of something?
It varies because I'm a pretty big candy lover. I'm working on training myself out of that though, because candy does not have any nutritional value whatsoever.
No, it's a red food.
Yeah, so I am working on training myself sort of out of candy. Generally, probably sweets of any kind. So like baked goods or candy is generally my first choice for a snack food.
Do you have a movie theater candy that you like?
Sour Patch Kids.
Me too. They're
I
so
love
good.
Sour Patch Kids.
Do you like the watermelons? We just bought the watermelons by
Yeah,
accident the other day.
I like them. I think my favorites are the classic Sour Patch
regular.
Kids.
Do you like the blue ones? We got a lot of follow-up Sour Patch questions.
Thomas
really likes the blue ones.
I could do without the blue ones. I don't hate them, but my favorite is the orange ones. Those are my favorite. Yeah.
I think the green is mine. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, green is real good too.
I have one more, and then you have that amount of time to prepare to think about your belly button.
Oh, I have thought about this an obscene amount.
Do you have a problematic fave as far as books?
Oh,
it doesn't have to be books.
I have so many problematic faves. I mean, especially in paranormal and suspense, you get a lot of problematic stuff.
Yeah, because a lot of times the hero has reasons, right?
Yeah. And I love reasons. I love them. I love reasons. And really, I mean, I guess you could probably if you had to pick an umbrella for all my problematic faves, it's probably the alpha hole. I love a domineering man, but it only if he's paired with a really kick-ass person,
that's not their normal choice.
Right. And so there has to be like, it can't be just a man who runs roughshod over everybody. It has to be a man who thinks he's going to do that, and then that person trips him up and says,
Sure. Oh, no, you didn't.
Yeah, right. And so I love all kind of permutations of that. Like I love a bodyguard story or something where, like,
so are you like a workplace relationship sometimes? Also?
Sometimes, yeah. I don't mind. I don't hate those. Like, but like, I love it. I love somebody has to protect somebody else. Like somebody, I love like a little, and that's why I read paranormal and suspense. I love a little danger in the book, and like, so the stakes are a little higher. Like I love, that kind of plot heavy kind of conflict. Like I don't, that's part of the reason I don't read a lot of the same books that, are really popular.
A lot of contemporary doesn't have a lot of deep
it's a lot of internal conflict, and that's great, but I get kind of bored.
Sure.
Like, but where's the monster? Who's gonna how do you know they love you if they didn't save you from a monster?
Yeah. Have you read any of Rebecca Weatherspoon?
A little bit. Not very much.
That was somebody who was explained to me as somebody who doesn't have a lot of internal conflict necessary, or no, I'm sorry, the conflict is external to the relationship.
Yeah.
And that's what's driving it forward, rather than like, I'm just not talking to this person about my problems.
Yeah, I have to check her out a little bit more then. Maybe I've missed something there.
There's also some hashtag discreet fisting, just
nice.
Letting you know. Okay, you ready?
Okay, bring it.
What are you dispensing from your belly button, Jen?
All right.
Tell me everything.
All right. This is going to be a long answer because you need some context. Because I'm not joking when I tell you I have thought about this a ridiculous amount.
I'm so glad.
Okay. So, all right. If it has to be a food, which I know it doesn't have to be. So, but there's
literally no rules, but okay, yes. Keep going.
If it had to be a food, then I would have to say ketchup because I think that is the correct answer for me. I'm not going to say for everybody. For me, I have children who, I enjoy ketchup. We all eat ketchup a lot. Like, like bang for your buck. I think it's ketchup. But I don't think that would be what I would choose. So I really like, so I came up with two ideas. One I had talked about in the cult before. Which was my idea of CBD oil.
Okay, yes.
You could bottle it and sell it as small batch artisan
I could quit my
CBD.
job tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Small batch artisan, farm to table. Buzzwords.
That's right. It's homemade CBD oil. And, people want that shit for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know how far that train will take you because, someday that trend's going to go away. Yeah. So I don't think that's long term. That's not the best solution. So I think the answer that I would have to go with is another thing that I have mentioned in the cult before too, which is lube.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And what I called it in the cult, I'm just going to plagiarize myself here. I called it a sex condiment.
So there you go.
That's right. That gets away from the problem of the concern about it dribbling down, right?
Oh yeah, it's always fine. Yeah.
So it that's fine, and I think
no more
there's
squeaky doors.
A sex positive educational element here. So I read and the reason that I committed to this was because a few weeks ago there was an article on Smart Bitches. And I pulled it up so that I could tell everybody the name of it. It was called Once in a Lube Moon, Why We Need More Lube in Romance.
Yeah.
And it was all about how people never use lube in romance. And I thought, see, then I will be the educator that will go around telling people about the importance of lube. So I'll use my weird belly button dispenser to as the conversation starter.
I think that you're onto something with sex condiments though. I feel like there's a lot of action to happen there, literally and figuratively.
So I don't know that anyone wants to use my lube, but that would be weird.
Yeah.
But again,
depends on the situation, Again, there's so many other solutions. No more squeaky doors.
Yeah.
That's like tanning oil.
I'm pretty sure lube has other uses that you could find. Yeah. So
there's probably a website out there that's giving them to you as well.
So there you go. This is my extensively considered answer to this question.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah,
That
well, I
makes
do
me
my
really
homework.
happy. Absolutely. Jen, this is awesome.
Thank you
I
for
loved
having
it.
me.
Anytime. Do you want to do it again? Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Jen, I love you so much, and thank you for doing this with me.
All right, I love you too. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Keep being badass and love yourself as much as you love heaving bosoms.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.